guys, this is Mike at Craft Beer Storm, and we got Thursday Thunder today. I'm borrowing it from Andy Frisella, the MF CEO, but it is Thursday, and I have 3 awesome guests in a row podcasts, which I'm going to record and then release them. Hey, if 2 minutes, if you got time, please go on to iTunes, give us a rating and review. You like our podcast, that just helps us get up the rankings and gets the word out that we exist, right? We got to get the word out, and our downloads are increasing, which is awesome. But I appreciate if you can go on there, give us a rating, a review, subscribe, tell a friend, tell 10 friends, because we love 10x. Let's get this thing going. But today I have a Fergal Murray, who's a Guinness BrewMaster, right? I got connected with him through a chef in Ireland, Roseanne Stevens. She's awesome, and she connected me with Fergal. And he has a lot of knowledge, he poured a pint for the Queen, so it's freaking awesome. You got to listen to this. All right, here we go. Hey, this is Mike at Craft Beer Storm. We have a very special guest today. We have Fergal Murray, who is the Guinness BrewMaster. Fergal, how are you?
I'm great, Michael. How are you? I'm former Guinness BrewMaster, but if you know what I mean, I've left the great world of Guinness, and I've now entered the even better world of the brewers external to the main corporate brands,
right? Helping
them out. So
that's awesome.
No, it's been a fantastic step and learning and understanding as I broadened my experiences outside the Guinness world, which was extraordinary in itself, and no doubt we'll cover that. But once I had freedom to release myself from the binds of one amazing brew, I found out how many other people are enjoying the world of craft brewing, and I've also enjoyed how I've been collaborating and blending in with them, which is something I'm very proud of, because it meant that some of the knowledge I gathered in my 30-odd years with Guinness has actually been valuable to other people as well, which is good.
Oh, absolutely! You make a delicious product, and it's well renowned, Guinness. So I'm just excited to have you on the podcast. It's awesome. But I understand what you're saying. We do I do 3 podcasts a week actually. One is with a brewer, mover, shaker, and then on Wednesday we do beer style. So I go down the Great American Beer Festival list. There's like 102 different styles, and then they have subcategories. So I just pick one a day or one a week, and then we just explain it.
That'll keep you busy.
That does keep me busy. If you think about it, it'll keep me busy for 2 years, because this is 100. But there's a lot more styles of beers out there rather than, like an IPA or a pale ale or even a stout. I mean, but there's so many different types. But I just wanted to, but I wanted to just...
It can be very complex, all right.
And
it can be challenging for the drinker or consumer, whatever phrase, as well, because they're not exactly as tuned into the terminologies as maybe some of the brewers would be. So it's learning, I'd say, for some craft brewers is to maybe help people understand what you're trying to do with the category, or what you're trying to do with your product inside a category, so they actually can pick up that knowledge and use it themselves, because we don't explain the differences sometimes. I mean, we assume I think brewers assume that everybody knows what it is, but unfortunately that is not the case.
No, you got to educate them. So that's why I do it every Wednesday, and I kind of dumb it down and try to be very plain, vanilla, explain things. Yeah.
Dead right, Michael. Keep it simple, and I mean, let 1 or 2 facts is all people can actually take in at one time.
Right. You don't want to get too technical, then you lose them. Yeah. So, so I just wanted to, maybe I'm glad I got you on. You know what? I just got to, I tell you, I saw you the video of you serving a pint to the Queen. It was awesome. And I saw her reaction. She just she was just stunned, and she just walked away.
She drank it with her eyes. She fell in love with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe she was awestruck, by the. I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you pour a pint of Guinness.
Well, all beers, the visual impact, people should not forget that the visual impact is the first actual impact from the senses that you have when you see a beer. And if it looks extraordinary and it looks, attractive, you even go in further, sort of words of sexy and things like that, then it will be more rewarding, and the experience you get will be even more important, and your product will be even more thought of as more special if it's delivered and served in the perfect looking way. But yes, that moment with Her Majesty and His Royal Highness was a famed moment in my 30-odd years. It was probably my most pressurized seconds that I ever had after 33 years of brewing, was to sort of stand in front of her and make sure that I delivered the perfect pint.
Wow.
It was, so because as you know, or any bartender out there knows, you can't always get it right. But on that particular day, I held my nerve and delivered. So it was a wonderful memory, and she was very much a wonderful lady to.
Yeah, that's very special.
Too. Yeah,
very
absolutely.
special. Yeah, it was an amazing video.
And I think that was quite a number of years ago now, but it's almost like one of my own personal sort of brand stories for Fergal Murray, the brand. What did I do when I was out there? The understanding of what to have to do on that moment as a brewer, and the understanding of what I had to do to ensure that my, the brand Guinness was represented in the perfect way. I had to do a lot of background thinking for that, just to actually make that sure that actually was perfect on the day, and set the criteria, make sure the glasses were set, have my wording describing the product in a way that she could understand. And there was a lot of background to deliver that, as you might know, in preparing for something. It wasn't just me standing up there and, going through the 6 steps and putting it into a glass and delivering it. There was a lot more going on in my head. Probably too much.
Oh my God! Yeah, I see the picture now too. You wrote an article on LinkedIn, and I was looking at the picture. But it's okay. Well, she's smiling, which is positive, which is good.
Oh yeah, she was definitely, and he was, and
Prince Philip, yeah,
he was a character, and we enjoyed his interaction as well.
That's so awesome. Yeah. You should be Sir Fergal. I think you've contributed a lot.
I'll take any credit these days. As an independent consultant, I can be whatever you want me to be.
Right. That's cool. So listen, briefly, usually I tell everybody, when I ask them the question, how did you get started in the whole beer business? I know you have an elaborate past with chemistry, and I've read a lot about it. And
it wasn't by design.
No.
I got a job. So to be there was no romantic story other than the fact that work came my way. And it was an amazing story when I realized what I was actually working at in where I was working. I had, when you're only 21 or something like that, I don't think you actually can decipher or understand what culture or what historical sort of context is behind the job you take on. And when I arrived there, back in 1983 or something, I was just looking forward to having seeing how I was going to get on with the day in the job. But then when you saw the history and you met the people there, and then eventually I recognized what the brand or product was like, wow, I said to myself, that's an amazing place to be. Mm-hmm. And hence, I fell in love with being there. The marriage or the relationship was just a journey that I, only found, totally rewarding no matter what I did. And, I can't fault any of the time I had there at all. From a boy to a man and having the knowledge handed down to me. What an education. To be a brewer, you sometimes, I feel sometimes when I talk to people who've sort of, because they like beer and they suddenly open up a brewery and they start running it, they're a brewer. I remind myself and God, I had to go through almost 30 years of training to be able to call myself a master brewer.
Yeah. I have a brewery. Yeah, I have a brewery as well. And I kind of went from home brewing to Just like from 5 gallons to 200 gallons, right? But
Yeah.
it's kind of a
Wow.
passion of mine, and I'm trying to do something. And I've been at it 4 years in, so I mean, there's a lot to learn. I mean, I don't have any formal training, but I do make the beer, and people drink it and they like it. So I'm doing something correctly. I don't know.
And that's the main thing. It's when it's doing the job, getting the product and creating the liquid that you're proud of, and then having the feedback back. I mean, my first understanding of that was, a few years in, when I'm sitting in a bar with some of my college friends and having a pint, and somebody said to me, "Did you make this stuff?" And I said, "Well, I sort of was one of the people that had a hand." And he said, "You did a good job." So, from a peer group person, sort of in college, sort of going to me, "Well done, Fergal." I had never realized I actually had participated in creating something that somebody was going to enjoy. But from that moment on, it became sort of ooh, wow, I better be, there's people out there enjoying what I'm sort of
That's so awesome.
doing in it.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I'm like a chartered accountant CPA, so I go in and I do audits for people, and they're like, "All right, when are you leaving?" I'm like, "I just got here." But then I say, and then if I say, "Hey, I'm a brewer too. I have a brewery," they're like, "Oh my God, you got to bring some beer in. Come on. Oh, this is awesome." So it's just like a 180-degree thing. Yeah.
There is a big fraternity or group out there who prefer you to. I used to maybe make a sort of statement. Well, at least I'm making beer instead of baked beans or something. You know what I mean? or soap powder. I don't think I could have got away with sitting in my peer group and getting the common.
Yeah, soap powder. That was a really great shower I had with that soap powder.
yeah. So that wouldn't have, so at least I was in an industry where I could felt that like there was going to be people were going to respond in a positive way.
Beer is a great thing. Yeah.
And one of the journeys and one of the experiences of the experience I had when I traveled the world was that it's a great area to start conversation. I mean, people love talking about beers and beer products, and one of the great things about Guinness was that the fact that no matter what bar I was in, it always generated a conversation about somebody saying, "Is this as good as it is in Dublin?" Or "Is this as good as the last one you had?" Or "Did the bartender do a good job?" Or "Why is it always different in this part of the world and another part of the world?" I mean, it was any of those type of themes came up, and every single time we had to, there was a response, or I was communicating back some sort of position that I had on it. But it was always a great conversational piece, and great beers do that no matter what happens to, and no matter where you have them. Yeah.
Well, beer you can enjoy. I mean, if times are happy, people enjoy beer. If times are depressed and sad, they go for a beer, and it kind of just breaks up the whole. I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. It's part of the atmosphere. It's part of the experience, and I think drinking beer, people who craft beer, make beer, if they recognize that when they offer the person the experience that as well, and the environment they're in, and sort of help them understand what that means, then the product will grow, and it'll offer the consumer what they want even more and more, by that experience and that understanding of how to drink it and how to consume it and when to consume it and what time is best for it to be drunk, etc., temperature, blah, 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 carry on after that. Yeah.
Right. So you became brewmaster for Guinness. Well, it was 42 from what I see of this article here. Was that around your 40s, early 40s?
Yeah. Well, you're part of a team. So there's not. I wasn't the only master brewer around. But what was there are others there. But I got to be the person that stood up in front of the world's market and told them what it was all about. So I got to represent.
You're the ambassador, I guess.
Yeah, well, I suppose that term, I've sort of that term now. Anybody could be an ambassador. There's people out there with who dress up in lovely clothing and go out and represent brands as ambassadors. When I did it, I was exposed to the world's media. In fact, it's nearly 10 years now since I was on the Jimmy Kimmel show. I don't think I can call myself or the Jimmy Fallon show, or both shows actually. I don't think I can call myself an ambassador doing that job. I think what I was there was an advocate, I suppose, or so the representative of the brand and was given the position to be able to, sort of be the custodian of the myth and magic of the brand in front of millions and millions of people.
Wow.
So I think that's slightly more than just what people might know. The word ambassador is thrown around out there. So, but it took a long time for me to, learn my trade. You see, in the brewery, you don't become back in those days when I started, you couldn't become a brewer overnight. You had to go through a fairly long journey, which was indicative of the way that people were trained throughout Guinness's history. You had to sort of prove yourself, not only in the technical side, but in a way, in a manner that represented the business. Because a lot of the time back then, people forget already, because it was very manually orientated in the business. When I joined, there was over 3,000 people working at the brewery. And at one stage in the department I was running at 22 or something like that, there was about 250 men operating the plant. And really your job as a brewer was understanding that you had people that you were giving instructions to and making sure the instructions were complied with. And basically instructions were given to follow the recipe as it was written down in stone. And it wasn't that difficult to do, but what you had to do is manage people. And people management can, because people are always, they change or they do something. They don't turn up on time when they needed to turn the pump off or something like that. These were things that we had to do. So it took us quite a number of years before we had proven it ourselves to the brewers ahead of me in the line that we were capable of doing the job. Eventually, we qualified with external qualifications. So we became a brewer and then a master brewer, along with all the knowledge and experience of running a plant. And then on top of that, part of the Guinness world was that if you were on that career path, you did have to do your duty overseas. And I had the privilege of being 3 years out in Nigeria brewing and running 3 or 4 different breweries out there at some stage. In the context of the brewing world, that is what was needed to be done for the Guinness part of us. Eventually, I came back, from all those brewing episodes and learnings, and I had an attribute or a skill or somebody identified that I could actually speak about it in a way that people enjoyed listening to me, and hence I started then getting invited to, represent the brand in the global markets. I was in 52 different countries representing Guinness, talking to different markets, Korea, Australia, US, Brazil, Europe, wherever, to just, help people understand what the brand meant, first of all, what the history was it about, why did such a product transfer itself from just a small little country called Ireland across the world to 147 different countries, and why, it sort of punched above its weight, I suppose, in the global market, why people talked about it. And then you went into the conversation about the quality of the product, the distinctiveness, the uniqueness, the way people talked about it. And I lived that story, and hence when I was representing it, I sort of, gave snippets of how I felt about it and my love for the brand, et cetera, et cetera. So I got good at that, and hence they sort of said, well, you might as well, do these things that help our marketing department around the world. As our global brand spokesperson. And Fergal, will you head off to somebody or other? I mean, it's 250-year anniversary year. It was 10 years ago. I'm just reminding myself now. 10 years ago, that was my biggest work year. I don't think I was at home very much that particular year, as they allowed me travel the world talking about our quarter of a century old product.
But I mean, who better to talk about the brew than the brewer, right? So, I think, and it's just worldwide. It's just been a phenomenon. When people think stout, they think Guinness, because it's all over the place, and it's a beautiful, the pour is beautiful, and the nitro, and we got to get nitro here, but that's on my list. I have to figure it out. It's just me kind of, but. And I see that you're a consultant for beer and the industry, and also distillers. And then you went to Wachusett recently, right? In Massachusetts. They're right next door to us.
Yes,
Massachusetts.
I have a great relationship with the Massachusetts team. They're an amazing bunch of guys and girls over there. I wish them all well and happy St. Patrick's Day, guys. Collaborating with the team there, great opportunity for me to get down and design a few products for the lads. We produced a stout last year, and we produced a honey orange zest ale this year, and they do an amazing job. And it's so much fun just to sort of be allowed to use some of my crazy ideas in a brewery and get the reaction from people.
So I guess that's part of the. I saw the Fergal project. Is that what that's part of that? Or can you explain what the Fergal project is?
They went with that. I wasn't. I didn't put that idea up. They came up with that idea. I sort of wasn't allowed to sort of say no to it.
I think that's cool. It sounds cool.
It's cool, and it worked well. And it's we're going to continue to be collaborating with them as I do with other brewers around the world. People just can use the advantage of maybe my background to help create brand equity. What I'm talking about there is you're growing your liquids, you're growing your attraction to the way you make beer and how you drink, what products you've made, but you've also got to grow your brand equity by getting it recognized for different things. And that's what juices do very well. They want to be seen to be involved in quite a number of different categories and different areas.
They're really great brewery in the region here in Wachusett. But then we talked a little bit about, there's stouts, but you just mentioned another, I think you have that honey blonde that you mentioned with them. But there are also other categories, and I think you've been talking to a lot of craft brewers now because you have the kind of experience in a large brewery, mass produced, but it's quality beer, quality ale. And how does that transfer? How do you transfer that knowledge to maybe smaller brewers, or like when you go out there, what are you seeing?
Well, you see a lot of endeavor. There's a lot of endeavor out there, and people are doing an extraordinary job taking the raw materials, putting it through the equipment they have, which may not always be as automated or high tech as it could be. So there's more challenges, and they're producing liquids that are, amazing with innovative techniques and innovative recipes and innovative raw materials. And I love all that. I think anybody who does that that's just extraordinary. What can then happen, unfortunately or fortunately, is sometimes the end product, may not be as good as it could be. But that's fine, you see, because you're on a journey, and what you've got to do is continue to sort of, as a brewer, ask yourself the question every single time, can you do it better? Is there something else I need to be doing? And reminding yourself by that. And when you do that, the key things are to establish some good ground rules, make sure your hygiene levels are as high as they can be. Quality assurance elements are as good as they can be under the understanding that you haven't got the equipment maybe to measure everything, but the consistency of writing it down, the brew sheets, the terminologies, all those things, just the data recorded so that, you're watching and covering it all the time. And those disciplines are critical if you want to succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes I find people do probably try to be innovative probably before they need to be. In other words, the portfolio of products that come from a brewery, ask yourself, do you really need to be doing every single type of product that you have to do every single month? You know what I mean? Maybe keep it simple. Get the fundamental ones right and improve them rather than trying to do a new seasonal or a saison or pumpkin beer or chocolate beer or cask conditioned stout, something. I mean, it becomes then almost more challenging because you're trying to do too much,
right?
Which is great to see, and I love it. But sometimes you've got to ask: I'm putting all this extra effort in. What are you putting all that extra effort in for? And
Yeah, I think you're right.
Just double check yourself. Always just double check really what.
Right, because there's a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time to brew beer. Whenever people come in, I give them a tour, and I'm like, "Look, guys, it's not like you add powder to water and make beer. It's a process. A 3 or 4 week process. There's the there's the mashing, there's a boiling, there's a fermentation, which takes like 10 days or longer if it's a lager, and then conditioning, and then you have to carbonate. It's a long process. So if you throw like new beers in there, you could, I guess people want a new thing, but yeah, go ahead.
And don't forget though, the cleaning up.
And forget it. I mean, I'm a glorified janitor. That's what I have a plaque. Somebody gave it to me.
The heavy lifting is 25 kilo bags or whatever, up of grain, up a ladder, in the top, down a ladder, taking it out later on. Nobody recognizes that.
No.
Filling bottles, cleaning bottles, capping bottles,
cleaning and sanitizing. That's mostly what it is.
Effort is needed. And that's the hard slog that you have to admire in the way I came out of the big world. What I was probably not as clued into how the craft brewer was doing what he had to do on a daily basis, the 24/7 he put in. And suddenly I woke up to that very quickly because, otherwise I wouldn't be a good consultant. But you just have to admire the commitment.
It is a commitment.
And the joy that you see on people's faces, though, when they do it well. And
well, you could create something from, we don't have really fancy equipment here. I have like a dairy tank from Wisconsin. That's my mash tun. It's stainless steel. It's insulated, but it does the job. I have a kettle from a pharmaceutical company. They used to sterilize water for medicine, so I use that to brew. And I have fermenters, which are really white wine fermenters, but they were cheaper, so I bought them. But it works, we make pretty good beer, but it's a very manual, intensive cleaning process. Clean and sanitize everything, and it has to be clean and sanitized, or you could just destroy the whole batch. I've seen a couple batches go down the drain. It just killed me because they didn't clean the fermenter correctly.
That's just one level, Michael, because you're just doing it for a hobby. I mean, the next step is if you ever did it for a business and you were commercially getting involved. That is the extraordinary difference. To understand, how to make money in the whole thing. So the craft brewer out there today who, does what he did what you're doing, doing it as a hobby, having it there for friends and enjoying creating fantastic liquids, but then to turn that into a business.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That is a step that you, people ask me that question. Why didn't I not do it? And the reason I didn't do it, because I don't think I'd ever be happy with myself because of the fact that I'd be asking myself too many questions and challenging myself to too many things because I wouldn't get it. I'd be trying to do it right every single time. And I'd be, all those things we just discussed a few minutes ago, I'd be going, God, I can't be doing all that.
Forget it. Yeah. I mean, you have to be kind of flexible.
But put me in a brewery that's operating and, want me to help them move it forward and stand back and watch and help and guide. That's I love doing that. I think that's
you have a wealth of experience, and I think you'd be excellent to be.
Well, I think it's just being there to soundboard. People, I think people all want to follow their own journey and task, but sometimes it's nice to have somebody around you can just sort of ask, what would you have done if you were in that situation type thing, or should I have done it this way? You know what I mean? Going on the internet and finding the answer sometimes is lovely and easy to do, but sometimes it might be better just sort of hi, what do you think, lads? You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. Well, internet, anybody can write stuff. You don't know what to trust on the internet. And then but if you have somebody there who actually did it, and is knowledgeable, and you have like a wealth of knowledge, you're a master brewer, and I mean, the quality control at Guinness is probably off the charts. It's like, Anheuser-Busch. They produce a lot of beer, but the quality control has to be very high.
Yeah,
I'm interviewing Mitch Steele after you. Today is like All-Star Day. It's unbelievable. And I also have the brewer from Allagash on.
Nice.
Man, today is just like Thursday Thunder, I'm calling it. It's
Wow.
unbelievable. I lined everybody up. It's like the stars aligned, and all of a sudden everybody was available. So I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Well, you got some legends there.
It's unbelievable,
to talk to.
yeah.
You're correct though. The QA approach that the big brewers have to do to ensure that their products are consistent and meet the requirements that they have to meet is extraordinary. People do not understand the commitment that those people put into it.
Right.
And the amount of analysis that's done to make sure that everything can move from one step to the other step.
Yeah.
Well, us craft brewing folk maybe can get away with a few indiscretions every now and again, or inconsistencies, and you're working for the large guys, that does never happen. I could never. Everything had to be in spec and moved before it was even moved from one tank to the other tank, and the type of crises that could occur if you got the wrong analysis back, that put grey hairs on your head sometimes.
Wow.
In those,
and that's a massive amount of beer too. Like, what do you do in those cases? Like, what do you have to do? Just dump it?
There's the nutshell. Yeah, what do you do? That's what the master brewer's skill is all about. You understanding, first of all, what went wrong, or if it went wrong, then and then finding a solution that is allowable within the structure that you have. Some solutions wouldn't be allowable, if you know what I mean. So, we won't. This can't be specific, but there are hundreds of ways of creating a problem. But then there are only one or two ways of finding a solution for it. But the big brewers face that all the time. So, yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. You have to see if you can save it or dump it or. Yeah, but that's when somebody goes in, they want a pint of Guinness. They want the consistency, the quality. That's why they order it. So if it tastes different,
well, it has to be that. You're only as good as your last pint, really, as a brand.
That's right.
It only takes one or two negative comments for it to sort of.
I know.
Move, it's good.
It's like wildfire. Especially the social media now. Like, I've seen really breweries that produce really quality stuff, and then they have maybe one beer that went wrong, and it just everybody jumps on board and just criticizes, and it's a firestorm. It's ridiculous, It
was, and in the olden days, using this phrase, it's only about 10, 15 years ago, it was probably still there. There was always one in most bars around the world. There was always one influencer. If you one guy that the bartender would go to as well. Do you think that pint was okay? And you know what I mean. And if he had a bad day.
If you had a bad day, that's right.
You could be out of business fairly quickly. So the point was, you got to watch these trends that happen, conversations that happen. But the only way out of it is to ensure that you don't have anything that sort of gets asked the question.
Speaking about trends, have you tried the New England style IPA?
I have, yeah.
And what do you think about that style? It depends on who you talk to. I talked to Todd Mott actually the other day. He developed Harpoon IPA actually. Now he has his own brewery, and he's like, I don't understand it. It looks like a milkshake. That's not a beer, But that's the way he is, And then he says a beer should be clear, or it should be a little hazy, but not, you insert lactose into a an IPA. That lactose is not for an IPA, and you can't do that. But what do you think about that style?
Well, there's no negatives about anybody who creates any beer product, and I no doubt would enjoy it in the right experience, at the right time. I get what you're saying about it. If it's not clear and it has this cloudy look, maybe that's not as attractive as it could be. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it the way it is. I think it's expression of the product, and I think if that's in the right environment, the right time, it's probably gorgeous,
right?
Lovely.
Well, I like hops. I like them, but too thick is just like, well, that depends on the person. Every person's palate is different,
the experience, yeah. I think though, look, you're back to our point about making different varieties of products from your brewery. Look, if you're getting volume sales from New England IPAs, carry on.
You're going to make more, yeah.
you're only selling 2 or 3 kegs, there's probably not much point you doing it.
No.
But look, I know everybody should try. Everybody should experiment, and from the experiments you learn, what from the feedback you're going to get. Some people will adore it because they love the hop character, flavor. They love the new look. They love the fact that you've been experimental. They love the fact that you're sort of offering something new, which is a key point, really. It's almost expected for every craft brewer to come up with something new on a regular basis, which I may be where I might be hanging my little hat and saying, I don't think that's correct. But that's the way the consumer, the public are looking for. They're always looking for something new. And that's because the way we all live these days is that, we're social media fiends. We're looking at whatever's happening. We're looking what's creating noise rather than actually, maybe it's a good idea to go out and have the pint that they had the last 6 months that I've enjoyed rather than looking for something new to talk about or new to energize me. Yeah. So I'm just sort of hanging my hat on by, look, just back to basics, back to normal, get it right, continue to do that, and don't fall foul of the sort of need to be producing something exotic and new every week.
Right.
Because if you're in the commercial reality, doing something new and exotic every couple of weeks or whatever, you're introducing more cost, and 2, you're introducing more complexity.
Oh yeah.
And 3 is you've got to figure out, another product you have to sell, and does it actually add value to your brand? Well, maybe it does, but ask yourself those questions, and get the feedback. And if the feedback is telling you that was nice, but no cigar type of thing, then maybe stop. And go back to normal. But anyway, look, new categories, new styles, all for that. Love experiments, but understand what it is. It's an experiment, unless you get.
That's what it is. But sometimes you do experiments, like we have Outer Limits Double IPA, which is with Galaxy hops, which is people like it. And then I got connected with there's a place in New Jersey called Outer Limits Hot Sauce. I'm like, well, that's interesting. So why don't you send me some of your lime jalapeno hot sauce? I'll infuse it into the double IPA as an experiment, and people love it. Like, they're nuts about it. I mean, it goes quickly, but you have to do some stuff like that and do, experiment with different things, which there should be an element, but also, like you're saying, it's a business, I mean, if people are going nuts about it, make more of it, but, you also have to...
If you have your customer base and you're not growing your customer base, or you're quite happy with the reaction you get in a small local sort of community, then that's fine. But if you want to extend it and grow it and produce product that's going to continue to be sort of seen as a hitting the niches going forward, then you've got to just double check what you're trying to do. That's all I'm saying.
One of the things you touched upon, it seems like everything's becoming hyper local now. Do you see that as well? Like a lot of the larger breweries, they're falling on bad times. I mean, like Green Flash out in out west. I mean, they have awesome beer, but they distributed country, all over the U.S. and then. People were trending towards local beer, and then they had to pull back, and then all of a sudden, they got taken over by like some VCs, and no more Green Flash. I think they still produce product, or they're resurrecting it, but it's just like if you grow too fast or go too, or there's also other breweries, like there's a ton of cash, like they come into a load of cash, they'll buy like a 30-barrel system, start producing beer off the bat in volumes. And then they can't sell it, and then they can't make the loan payments, and the bank takes over. I've seen this over and over. I mean, what do you see in terms of the beer industry? Do you think it's going hyperlocal, or what do you say to people who are thinking about going all out and purchasing these bigger systems? What would you suggest?
Well, I think you have to be local. If you're starting up, you've got to own your local marketplace as best as possible.
Right.
You've got to be seen to be doing well in your 10K or 10-mile radius type thing of where you are. All right. So establish that, and I think that's definitely correct. Now, if you've got a facility that you spent millions on, and You're only working at 20% or 30% capacity, which is what a lot of people sort of went and did. They got successful and then spent a lot of money on building bigger breweries, which then they had to fill, and then they had to produce a distribution pipeline to get it to market. They probably jumped the gun a little bit. They didn't see the fact that there was the growth and competitive other breweries was going to compete with you, and what did you have that was distinctive and unique that could transfer across such a large, massive space. Other than, did your name actually get that far? Did you actually have a brand awareness that was, as big as you thought it was? So the conflict then becomes, I got a big brewery, that I've spent loads of money on that I can't get beer through because I don't have a route to market. And then you have the marketing people saying, well, everybody loves our product. It's getting great trending here and trending there. But still, you've got to sell it then. And you've got to have that route to market sort of locked in almost before you,
right. Yeah. I mean, if you produce a lot of beer, you also have to have a distributor on board, to get it, because self-distribution is good. We self-distribute here, but I don't produce huge volumes of beer. But also now, if you get a distributor involved, then he takes a big cut out of it. So you got to produce a lot of beer, But also the beer has to be good, right? And people you have to have a demand for it. So I think a lot of these larger people who are just starting large off the bat, I think it's just not a good idea. Maybe it's good to start small, like you're saying. Own your community first, and then grow organically, right? Grow the business.
That's the safer bet. I think some of the big learnings that people had was expansion, buying into larger facilities, getting new equipment was probably a step that they probably should have had a different look at. And I still think that's the case today. I think you need to really do some serious, project management on the capital introduction into your plant before you sort of recognize because there's a lot of people who've done a lot of that. I mean, some of those guys you mentioned there, what they did is they bought new equipment and they bought new gear, so they really didn't have.
They just go nuts. Also the build out of these places is ridiculous. Like I was looking at, I'm trying to sell my location here. I mean, I've outgrown it pretty much, and I'm trying to sell it. So Michael at craftbeerstorm.com or Michael at bearirishbrew.com for anybody who wants a brewery. I suggest to people, look, start small, buy this brewery. It's turnkey. You step in, I show you how to brew. Instead of just investing a whole ton of cash on a space that needs to be built out, you just pump a lot of money into. Like I went to Brooklyn just to check it out, check out spaces. They went like $450 a square foot, for for 4,000 foot space. What is it, like $600,000 that you have to put out just to build out the place, right? It's crazy. You got to really do your financial arithmetic on things like that. And I think a lot of people got caught out with the fact that the tap room sales were, providing them with large amounts of income, and then when they moved out from their tap room, into the marketplace, they forgot that the fact that the distribution costs were taking all the margin that they had from their tap room. Oh yeah.
So a lot of people sort of talk about their they sort of combine their taproom sales with their brewing sales, and they're totally two different things,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The taproom sales, the margins are like 80-90%. It's ridiculous. Yeah. The more you can get into the taproom, it's fantastic. When you start brewing, if you've got a destination spot and you've got people turning up, then that's your game. But remember, that's your game. And what people probably should have done was probably bought more destination spots. You know what I mean? Destination spots, yeah. Or these beautiful places I see with glass, and just the taproom is amazing. That's awesome.
If you can get people to turn up there, I mean, you've got a marketplace where people do travel to, visit these things. Other parts of the world, that type of marketplace isn't as easy to do.
No.
where your tap rooms have to be where people are actually congregating already.
It's
rather
fun.
than creating a space that sort of, please turn up at my brewery and they'll all come and watch the game, if the old famous baseball movie.
It's like a location. It's funny. I keep seeing articles about San Diego, like San Diego County. They're like, the brewers are like, it's up to $1 billion in revenue, like would it be? They're making more money, these brewers, than like the San Diego Padres, right? The baseball team. It's like ridiculous.
That's
like
ridiculous.
Per year. It's crazy, but it's a destination. People go there. They want to seek out the beer. And I was just to touch upon cans. Well, you had it was interesting with Guinness. They put the CO2 cartridge in the can. So when you pop the top, or it was the nitrogen cartridge, sorry. When you pop the top of the can, it would create this foam, and you can pour the pint. I mean, that was like genius. I don't know who developed that, or.
Well, it's slightly. There's no the nitrogen in the beer rather than in anything else. So what you've got to do is initiate the nitrogen to come out of solution. So you have to use energy to do that. So that's the description there.
Yeah, it was like a cartridge or something in there. I don't know what it was, but it was just they released it.
The widget is used to help create the pressure drop.
Yeah.
So how to describe it is, in the can, is there is a widget. So there's nitrogen inside the beer, inside the widget, inside the beer, inside the can. And when you open the can, there's a pressure drop. That's the energy that's applied. So the energy that's applied is the drop in pressure,
right?
Which the nitrogen molecule sees as I want to get away from being inside the beer. So it tries to escape, and because it's inside a widget, it comes through a small little hole at lightning speed, creating a surge, which then surges through the beer that's in the can, creating this initiation that creates this sort of settle and surge that you see when you see a pint being poured.
Right.
So the energy in a can is the pressure drop. The energy in the keg beer from Guinness is a velocity as the beer moves at pace down the beer line through the restrictor plate and into the glass.
And
so that's the energy that's applied there.
That's amazing.
And we used to have another one called the surger, which used an ultrasonic sound to generate the initiation. So you had to apply these energies to the nitrogen in the liquid, so the nitrogen would react to the energy that was applied and try to get away from the liquid. And by getting away to the liquid, to create a surge, and the surge would be this foam that would form because the bubble that was created couldn't escape into the atmosphere because the beer surrounded it with the lipids that were there in the beer. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Complex, very complex. But
it was amazing.
Another time, maybe we can go through the technology of that.
But anyway, like packaging, cans are killing me. I'm a small brewery, and we started doing cans, and I couldn't make any money off these things. I mean, it's cool. Everybody says they want to throw it in their backpack and go hiking. Nobody does that, But it's like I'm trying to just trend everybody back towards glass and try to, And I think Guinness put it in bottles for a while, right? A long time. Are they still in bottles or cans? I don't know what the package mix is for Guinness. I know.
No, well, mainly the draft Guinness would be the draft format of Guinness. It's mainly in keg version. Keg is the biggest.
Well, kegs, yeah. But like in stores and things like that, you can buy Guinness in stores, but it's not the same as the kegs, yeah, because you need the nitrogen.
Well, it gives the same opportunity to enjoy the draft version of Guinness in different environments. But
right.
It's the same liquid in the can as in the keg, but it just
Guinness,
it just because the can is sold differently, maybe comes across as a different experience.
Right.
But if you're a blind tasting, you shouldn't be able to pick up the difference. But but you want to go. Normally, people want to go and see the beer being crafted, and that's the whole joy of Guinness. It's the
pouring the pint.
The experience you get because you go to a pub to experience the pint being crafted and delivered.
So Guinness
to you.
is kind of a bad, but the cans for me killing me. I just stopped.
How much does it cost you? Well, you don't want to say that, but I mean, it's probably it can be expensive if you're not doing volume. Yeah, you need to do volume to get the can long enough so that you can get enough beer out there. But hence again, back to our comments about, if you're a brewer out there trying to make 10 different products on, from one brewery and trying to can them all, and you've got different labels on each can, and, you're trying to run the can line 10 times rather than running it one. You need to really ask yourselves all these questions before you start making, double IPAs or
yeah. It's expensive beer too. Yeah. double IPAs, and you have to be competitive with others who have larger breweries and they can scale, and their cost is not like your cost. So
yeah.
All right. Oh, one last question. Craft beer bubble. Do you think it exists?
No, it's not a bubble. No, the revolution has
bubble?
occurred. The craft revolution has occurred, and it's there to stay. So it's not going to burst. The growth rates are going to sort of slow down a little bit,
right?
As now that we've got, probably, I don't know what I mean. I can only say probably enough breweries, around to supply the market. Enough capacity certainly to supply the market in the craft world, but which ones are going to succeed and which ones are going to stay, that's an open question. Which ones are going to be around in 20, 30 years time. So I think there's going to be some, review of how it's all there, but the volume of craft product will still grow, but maybe not in the same number of the growth of breweries mightn't be as big.
Yeah. Well, you look at any curve, like the curve in craft beer breweries opening up has just shot upwards over the past couple of years, but that cannot be sustained. But I think it's going to be kind of a leveling out.
Yeah. And the sort of there will be some people who've got into it, made some financial, commercial wrong decisions that may have to be reviewed. Doesn't mean to say they might go out of business, but the point is they have to probably review their situation. Some will, the marketplaces will change and the trends will change depending on where you are. So you've got to be aware of those things. And then the competitive sort of challenges for other brewers is getting very challenging, especially over here now. There's an awful lot of activity in the marketplace at the moment.
You're in Dublin, right? You're Dublin there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the craft beer scene is blowing up there, but I understand what you're saying. As it get more breweries come on board, and it's happened to me too. Like my taproom sales have been affected. When I first come on board, it's just like, wow, everybody's coming in. But then you have other breweries moving in, and taking that away or diminishing it. You could see that, as they open up. Yeah. So, hey, listen, this has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Michael.
I really appreciate your time. It's been excellent, and I want to have a pint with you. We have to figure it out.
We'll have to do that, and in the meantime, make sure people, when they're enjoying alcohol, enjoy it with a responsible attitude. And
now you say you have your consulting, how can people get hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
There's a website, fergalmurray.ie, and
okay.
Link in with me or communicate through you, and I'm available to help and chat and talk, and love getting involved with anybody's journey on the beer world. But we look, as I said, just when people are drinking alcohol, take it care, and have a great St. Patrick's weekend coming up, everybody.
That's right. I'm going to release this on Monday. Right in time for St. Patty's Day. It's awesome.
Get yourself a lovely beer. I used to say one particular type, but I'm being a little bit more eclectic now.
Get yourself a beer and also an Uber or a Lyft to take you around.
Don't
drive.
Don't do that. Enjoy it sensibly. Anyway, good man. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Lovely it was great. No, it was great chatting with you. It was excellent. Okay, well, take care.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye. Hey, that was Fergal Murray, who's Guinness BrewMaster, right? And he's still a Guinness ambassador, and he travels the world and preaches the gospel of Guinness, and he pours the perfect pint. It's delicious beer, and he's done a fantastic job. He's also a consultant now, and he's helping breweries with their issues and try to, give him his knowledge. He was local here. He was at Wachusett, doing some work with them, brewed a beer with them, a honey blonde. But he is a consultant. He's doing the Fergal project, right? Which they named the Wachusett honey blonde. And he knows a lot of people. And like I said, he poured a pint for the Queen, which is amazing, and he talked to Prince Philip too. and he's in Dublin. He's a great Irish dude. All right, Fergal, and I gotta have a pint with him when I go there. So that's our podcast. If you like what we're doing, you like our guests. I mean, come on, Guinness BrewMaster. Who's going to get that for you? Me, right? I got it, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. But do me a favor, please. Go on iTunes, subscribe, leave me a rating, leave me a review. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends. That's the only way we can get this podcast going. We are on iTunes. We rank up and down, week to week, but I think the downloads are increasing, which is awesome. We got heavy duty guests, another 2 heavy duty guests coming up in the coming weeks. But we got Fergal on just in time for St. Paddy's week, huh? How about that? So that's our story for today, guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we will talk to you on Wednesday when we have beer styles. We'll bring another beer style to you. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.